Okay.
Cool. Cool runnings. Alrighty, fam jam. So it is week 3 of the Bropinions podcast. It's going to be me, Georgia, John the Stone. We have a special guest with us. Won't be on camera, but will be filling in spots with JRitt in the house. Everybody, welcome.
Howdy. How are y'all?
This episode of the Bropinions talk show is not brought to you by Full Throttle. They are not a sponsor, but they should be.
Or Ghost Energy, not a sponsor, but they should be.
Because they're both delicious. So first off, everybody, Merry Dadgum Christmas. I never know why mom doesn't gum it, but that's the way it happens. Hope you guys are excited for the NFL weekend coming at you on Christmas. We've got games on Saturday and Sunday and Monday and Thursday. There's games here, there's games there. It's like the Oprah show for NFL games. Everybody gets one all the days. So what we're going to do this week is talk to you about starts and sits and fantasy football again. And what we're going to start off with is what is your first big take of the Christmas weekend, John the Stone?
Well, first of all, Merry Christmas to everybody, and hope you all have a very Merry Christmas indeed, and Happy Holidays to those who don't celebrate. But, it's a big week. It's semifinals for a lot of your fantasy football playoffs, so we're going to try to help you make it to the championship round. I myself sadly got eliminated. However, Georgia here is still solidly in the running after his first round bye with his first playoff matchup this week. I had some rough luck. 4 of my guys had their worst weeks of the whole season. But we get ready for next year. We look forward to it. But I want to highlight so last week's starts and sits. And I put this on Twitter. If you're not following us on Twitter, be sure to follow us at John the Stone, at Georgia3. And we have a brand new Bropinions Twitter account at Bropinions Show. So be sure to follow us on Twitter and you can see all of our antics. We're in the middle of a very heated pizza debate right now. So I think to answer your question, my hot take is that New York pizza is the best pizza, better than your Chicago deep dish. Whatever.
Oh, Lord. It's a cracker with some cheese on it. Get off your high horse, you New York people. I love the city. I love New York City so much. I was there 10 years straight doing trade shows. I love it. But deep dish is a pizza. New York pizza is a cracker with some cheese. It's third place.
All right. We won't get into it. We may do a whole other podcast on that. But that's
you brought it up.
That's my hot take.
All right. So who is going to be the QB start for you this week?
Well, my QB start for this week, I'm going to go to New York, where the best pizza is, and I'm going to go Daniel Jones, the quarterback for the New York Giants. Now, Danny Dimes, as he is so called, has a pretty good matchup this week. Minnesota's 25th in schedule-adjusted fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. We've seen quarterbacks do very well against them this season. And Daniel Jones, 3 out of the last 5 weeks, has been a very solid QB1. Now, is he a guy that's going to win you your week? Probably not. I see him in, as a QB1, he's probably not going to go out and drop 40 or 50 points like Jalen Hurts. Well, before he was injured, Jalen Hurts or Justin
R.I.P.
But he's also, I don't think he's going to lose your week. He very consistently, at least lately, has been getting 15 to 20 points. And I think his ceiling is probably that 25, 30 point range. So I think Daniel Jones, if you're hurting, if you are dealing with a Jalen Hurts injury or something to that effect, if you need somebody, I think Daniel Jones is your guy this week.
Gotcha. Well, here's my take on it. It solely depends on if the offensive plan is to take Barkley out of the backfield and put him on swing passes. That gets you the yardage for Daniel Jones. But my thing with Danny Dimes is the reason they call him Danny Dimes is I prefer dollars, not change. So I'm going to go with Joe Burrow at New England. He's trending down because of the weather going to be at Gillette Stadium. I think he's going to do well. I don't think he does well with wide receiver 1, but I do think wide receiver 2 and the slot are going to be very, very good spots for him, as well as the tight end. I don't think they're going to run a lot against New England's defense. They'll abandon the run somewhere in the middle of the second quarter. And he's going to be lighting it up in the second half. So Joe Burrow at New England is my start of the week at QB.
Yeah, they don't call him Danny Dimes because he drops change. It's because he throws dimes all day. So we'll see who does better, Daniel Jones or Joe Burrow. But I can get behind your Joe Burrow pick. It's going to be, I think, an interesting week in that Cincinnati New England game. Belichick likes to shut key players down, which I think we're going to probably talk about more when we get to our sits. But yeah, I like it. I think Joe Burrow still gets the job done. 3 points favorites going into
one of my favorite interviews out of Bill Belichick was with Ocho Cinco. It was pregame, and he goes, "You might as well just stay on the bench, man. We're going to double cover you. You're not going to get anything." Fun fact for that game, Ocho Cinco had 2 catches. So Bill Belichick knows what he's doing to take the 1 star. The problem with Cincinnati is Jamar Chase is fantastic. Tyler Boyd will outscore Jamar Chase, foreshadowing, but Jamar Chase is really good. So that's why Belichick will take him away, and why the tight end and wide receivers 2 and 3 will do better than wide receiver 1 this week.
Man, you got to throw out a warning before you spit a take that hot. I mean, damn.
Coming at you like the Carolina Reaper. Moving on to running backs. What you got?
My running back start of the week. There's a saying that when a guy's on fire, you just got to stay in the fire. And I'm going to say that about my running back start of the week, JRitt McKinnon of the Kansas City Chiefs. Dude has been insane the last 2 weeks. RB1 overall, last 2 weeks. Each week, top RB.
Wasn't both of those like 30-point weeks? It was disgusting.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. He is killing it, and I think he continues to kill it. Seattle is the 31st. Is 31st in schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. So they are the second best matchup for running backs. I think Kansas City gets out to another lead. I think McKinnon either takes another screen pass to the house or he just runs it with Pacheco. I don't know. I thought Pacheco was the guy, but McKinnon has really stepped up the last couple weeks, and they're giving him the ball and they're running him while he's hot, and I don't blame him. I think he's going to kill it again this week. I don't know if it's going to be another RB1 week, but I'll say it's going to be a top 5 week for JRitt McKinnon.
It's almost like Andy Reid had brought in Pacheco just to piss off McKinnon, and it worked.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, okay, Pacheco, you're good. Just go chill out for a while.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the way Andy Reid runs his offense. I think Kansas City is a great team. Some of you guys in my top 10 on YouTube decided to give me a little bit of hell about ranking Kansas City over the Bills, even though the Bills took out Kansas City earlier in the season. But I just love the way they're playing right now. I do think they're playing better than the Bills. So one that I think is a little bit underrated at my running back start of the week is going to be a Thursday, and I will give you this stat. I looked at it, and it is super crazy. I don't know if it is because of offensive game planning by the teams that play on Thursday.
You're going to give me a stat?
It's crazy. I know, right?
Wow.
My big brain's going to work. Here we go. On Thursdays, 70% of starting running backs that start on Thursday that played the previous Sunday either meet the projection or outscore projections. 70% of the time, they meet or exceed their projections in your fantasy lineup. I don't know if it's because of the short week. They run more. So this week, I'm taking Zonovan Knight against Jacksonville. Jacksonville plays really, really well, but they got to go to the Jets. I think the Jets on a short week are going to run the ball a lot, and he is running back 1. He was listed on the IR this week. Not IR, but on it was listed questionable. But they have said he will play. He'll be running back 1, and Carter will spill off when needed.
I like it. Yeah. Zonovan Knight. I like that pick. I think that game, it's supposed to be a very rainy game. We're going to talk about it more later during the sits of the week. But rainy game, kind of low over under. Those Thursday night games are always a little odd. So all of that, I think, means that Zonovan Knight's going to have a good game. And the Jets are favored. They're 1.5 point favorites, but it's only a 36-point over under. So I think you got a good one there.
So here we go. Let's just check in because we have a special guest. Who does JRitt think out of the two quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Joey freaking Burrow, or Danny Change in my pocket, which is the better QB start of the week?
That's a tough call because I think Burrow has better weapons around him. I think that's just the thing. But I do think that you can't go wrong starting Danny Dimes this week either. So, gun in my head, I'm putting Joe Burrow up. Just because, to me, he's, once again, you got too many. Even if Belichick decides to take away the main weapon, you've still got Higgins, you've got Boyd, you've got Mixon, you've got P-Ron. There's just too much talent around him.
So you heard it here, folks, guys. Joe Mixon is better than Saquon Barkley. That's what he just said.
We're going to talk about Joe Mixon later, actually.
Oh, okay. So hot take from JRitt. We're moving on to wide receivers. Who you got?
My wide receiver star of the week. You know me. I like to stack my guys. So we got Daniel Jones as a QB star of the week. My wide receiver star of the week, we're going to go back to the Giants. We're actually going to go with Darius Slayton. Now, some people may be surprised to hear that I'm going to go Slayton over James. Richie James, I think, because he's been doing pretty well lately. But if you look at over the last 5 weeks, Slayton actually has more targets than any of the other wide receivers there. Granted, injuries have happened, a lot of different things have happened, but over the last 5 weeks, there's been 34 targets for Darius Slayton. More importantly, they're going to have to throw the ball. Somebody's going to have to catch the ball, and I think it's going to be Slayton this week. Minnesota is 31st in scheduled adjusted fantasy points allowed, so second best matchup for wide receivers. I think in a game where the Giants have to win, and we saw now granted, Minnesota, by the way, shout out, you did manage to pull off the biggest comeback in NFL history. Congratulations. However, but
it was against that bum Matt Ryan. He's historically bad at keeping leads, so...
And they've benched him now for Nick Foles because of that. But you still let the Colts, the Indianapolis friggin' Colts with Matt Ryan, get 33 points on you in one half. I think Minnesota, they've been exposed. I think they're going to keep getting exposed. The Giants have to win this game. I think Danny Dimes gets it done. I think Darius Slayton at least catches a touchdown. And I think he's going to be the leading receiver on that team this week.
I love what you said. Anybody that watched my top 10 NFL teams saw that I had the Giants at 10. I'm actually high on the Giants team. I'm more high on the defensive side of the ball, but I love what you said there. They're going to need to throw the ball, and somebody's going to have to catch it. And it's going to be Minnesota's defensive backs. So I get it. Wide receiver for me is going to be A.J. Brown at Dallas. The reason that this is a tricky one is it does look kind of an up in the air kind of thing with Hurts. Otherwise, A.J. Brown is an absolute start. I understand that, and we try to get value players. But with people being a little nervous, if Gardner Minshew plays, I still want you to start A.J. Brown. The reason that I like him over Devontae Smith is because Hurts has such the rapport with Smith that Minshew doesn't. He's going to lean on A.J. Brown more than he will Devontae. And I do think they run the ball a good bit in this game. But Dallas is going to put up points. They're going to need to throw it, just like you said. And I think he's going to lean more to A.J. than to Smith.
Yeah, and I like your pick. Like you said, we do try to go with value guys, but I know there is some kind of there's a questionable nature with the whole Eagles offense with Jalen Hurts looking like he's going to miss one, maybe even 2 games. So, but I think that you got a good pick there. I think that despite the injury to Hurts, whether or not he plays or if Gardner Minshew gets the start, I think A.J. Brown is still going to be a viable starter. He's the best wide receiver on that offense. It's a 1A, 1B situation with Devonta Smith. I think Gardner, there's just that team. It runs through Jalen, obviously, but the team is still good enough to where he can come in and get the job done. And it's not like, as far as backups go, Gardner Minshew is a pretty good backup, I would say. And, and we've seen what backup quarterbacks for the Eagles have done before historically. Shout out Nick Foles. So I think that AJ Brown is still a good start. And I think also you're probably in a situation where if you have to start him. I doubt you're going to find better options on the waiver wire. So yeah, I like it.
So I think John the Stone just said we're going to see a Philly special from A.J. Brown to Gardner Minshew, and that you're going to get one touchdown from A.J. Brown throwing.
Interesting. All right. We'll see what happens. It could happen.
Here's going to be a quick pick. I'm going to take Philly versus Dallas. What does JRitt think? Who's going to win the game overall if Hurts is out? No Jalen. Who wins the game?
Well, even without Jalen, I think the Philadelphia team has a better defense, and I mean, honestly, with the history, I can't go against Uncle Rico and the Minshew method or the Minshew magic. He's just, I mean, I'm sorry, it's just one of those. I think that you don't really have as big of a fallout because, I mean, I just think that they can game plan with Minshew to where he will not let them down. I think Eagles win that game.
The biggest takeaway from that is he just said Philly's defense is better than Dallas's.
Yeah, that's what had me shook. That's what had me shook.
I am shooketh. I love it.
If we're picking who wins, I think Dallas actually pulls out this victory just because of the defense. Because I think the Dallas defense is better. But we'll see what happens. Who are you picking in this game? Be the tiebreaker for us.
With no Jalen, it is going to be up to Dak to win on the last drive of the game. They're going to be down. They're going to need to get in field goal range, and he's going to throw a pick.
So you're saying Dak is gonna?
I got Philly by 2.
Wow. All right.
Dak will screw up that thumb thing. He hasn't figured out his hand yet. He's still throwing weird balls.
Well, Cowboys are 5-point favorites, so you're saying Eagles are going to cover the spread. Okay. I can get down with it.
By a whole touchdown. I got Eagles by 2, baby. Fly.
Well, let's move on to our tight end starts of the week. My tight end start of the week, we just talked about guys, big name guys who, we normally like to give you the value picks, the not obvious picks, right? So this guy
starting Kelce. Everybody knows.
Yeah, my start of the week, Travis Kelce. Put it on. No, this name is going to be a little bit of a situation where you're going to be like, well, yeah, duh, of course you start him. But if you look at the last few weeks, he hasn't been that great. But my tight end start of the week is Mark Andrews for the Baltimore Ravens. Arguably, I mean, he was the tight end 1 on the season last year. I think he just beat out Kelce, or he was the tight end 2. Either way, he was one of the best tight ends in football last year. However, this year it hasn't been that way, especially in the last few weeks with Lamar Jackson being hurt. Mark Andrews has been driving the struggle bus, but I think he gets right this week. Atlanta is a really good matchup for tight ends. They're 28th in schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. There was talk last week that Lamar Jackson might be back for this game. So not only is it a good matchup, but he may have his star QB back. And if you actually look at his splits, now granted, it's a small sample size without Lamar, but when Lamar plays, Mark Andrews averages just under 60 yards and half a touchdown a game, and that's this year. And without him, he averages 24 yards, and he hasn't caught a touchdown without him. So I think if Lamar Jackson is back, which it looks like he will be, I think Mark Andrews is going to be a solid start. I think he'll be a top 5 tight end, and I think he's going to help you get to your championship game.
So RIP Ben in our league. That's what he's saying. My tight end is going to be actually the tight end I have on my team is going to be George Kittle. Everybody's saying, oh, Washington's the worst team for tight ends. It's this, it's that. Watching Brock Purdy use him in the way they did last week, not using Ayuk, not targeting Ayuk all that much, and leaning on Kittle, I think that rolls over again. I think they're going to get the ball out of his hands quick. There will be tunnel screens. There will be bubble screens that will utilize Ayuk, that will utilize CMC out of the backfield. But Kittle will get a touchdown this week, and he's going to go for over 60.
Interesting take. I will be talking about Kittle towards the end of the show. So
we get to argue.
All right.
Oh, well, CBN, we're here. If we're going to talk about it, is George Kittle a starter or a sit?
Ooh.
JRitt on the mic.
All right. If we're going to do this, all right. You heard the start argument. I'll go ahead and do my sit.
Okay, yeah. Let him do the sit, and then we'll get
Let's
the
hear
tiebreaker.
All right. My tight end sit of the week is George Kittle. Here's why. Washington is one of the worst matchups for tight ends. They're fourth in schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. Brock Purdy is dealing with an oblique injury, so he is questionable. I think he'll start, but he is dealing with a slight injury, which might play into your narrative that he's going to get the ball out quick. However, if you look at the 3 games in which Purdy has started, when they played Seattle, which is a very favorable matchup for tight ends, mind you, the only player on that team who did anything the only pass catcher who did anything was George Kittle, because Seattle funnels everything to tight ends. They funnel everything to the middle of the field, which is where George Kittle runs his seam routes. I think that was a very favorable matchup. Now, granted, he went off 2 touchdowns and I think almost 100 yards. But if you look at the other 2 games, he was the tight end 27 and he was the tight end 14 with, I think, maybe not even 40 receiving yards each game. I think one was actually like 25 receiving yards. I just see this week, I see Ayuk being able to capitalize. I see CMC doing what CMC does. And I think that Kittle is going to be more of a, what he's been those first couple weeks with Purdy. And I just don't see him being a top 12 tight end this week.
So, all the cards on the table. What are we going to do? JRitt is going to break the tie.
So 9 times out of 10, I'm going to have to agree with the Georgia boy, but I think he's a sit this week. I'm sorry.
Whoa!
It's one of those. I feel like CMC is going to be the focal point of this offense. Not that he isn't already, but it's a semi-revenge game if you take into account that his former head coach is the new head coach of Washington. So I don't see them not at least giving CMC probably 30 touches this game in some form or fashion. Through the air, on the ground. They're going to get the ball to the playmaker as much as they can.
I will also say it's a 38-point over-under, which is on the low side. 49ers are 7-point favorites, so I think CMC runs the ball into the ground. I think they actually don't need to throw to Kittle. So I think, I could see it, but I think 9 times out of 10 this week, he's going to be a sit.
You heard it here, Heineke. John the Stone hates you. You can't score. 2, it's me against the world. And come Sunday or Monday, I'm going to be saying, I am legend. Because he's going to have 20. Woo! Anywho.
You're saying Kittle's going to have 20 fantasy points?
In half PPR.
In half PPR. If he has 20 or more fantasy points, I will admit to you that Chicago deep dish pizza is better than New York style pizza.
Done. And if he has under 10, then I'll buy you a New York pizza.
Okay, deal.
Here we go. Moving on to kickers. Who is your boot of the week?
My kicker star of the week, because we talked about the Patriots earlier, but I'm going to go back to him, is Nick Folk. Now, the dude is a beast. This may be a little obvious. However, kickers are kind of a mess anyway, right? So,
especially in our league.
We do some weird scoring. Y'all even want to know about it. But if you look at the numbers, Cincinnati is one of the best matchups for kickers. We already talked about how we think there's going to be some points in this game. But I think more importantly, I think the majority of this game is going to happen between the 20s. And I think it's going to mean there's a lot of opportunities for kicks. I think McPherson's a good start as well. He's a little more obvious to me than Nick Folk is. But I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for field goals in this game. I think Nick Folk, he's only missed like 2, maybe 3 kicks on the whole season. And anything under 50 yards, he's going to be solid. And I don't think he's missed one of those this season at least. So, and he's been the kicker 1 on the week this season 4 different times. So he has the ability and he has the skill to be the number 1 kicker on the week. So I think all of that stuff combined, he's going to be a very solid start for you this week. Top 12 kicker, no doubt.
Nice. Okay. I'm going to go with Matt Gay. One of these is because they're playing Denver, and I think Denver is going to set back 2 or 3 defensive backs to limit big plays, which is going to allow Akers to move the ball between the 20s. It's easier to kick in LA because you're not going to have as much wind resistance or anything, especially as you do in Denver. But I don't see them scoring in the red zone as much. I see them having to kick probably 4 field goals. Maybe Baker Mayfield gets into the end zone 1, maybe 2 times. Denver's defense has been their marquee for the season, except for a couple of games. I don't really see that as the Rams going off. They haven't went off all season. But I do think they get, within 30, 25, 20, and Gay is able to get 12 to 15 points out of the game just because Denver's going to play back and limit big passes. They don't want it to go. Skronik is out, and Higbee is dealing with a lingering injury, even though he'll play. So they're not going to throw it a lot. They're going to use Cam Akers. They're going to be able to get there because they're probably only going to keep 6 in the box, and that will move up the ball to the red zone, and then they'll get stalled out.
Yeah, no, I like it. I almost had Matt Gay as my kicker star of the week, so we're on the same page there. So,
woo! Defense.
All right, my defense star of the week. And when you think about it, it's going to make a lot of sense. But I'm going with the Cleveland Browns. Now
that makes no sense.
All right, well, we're done. We're good. No, my defense star of the week is Cleveland Browns. Now, there's actually this Arctic front, all this weather stuff going on, which means there's going to be a lot of rough weather for a lot of these games. None rougher than probably this New Orleans and Cleveland game. New Orleans, first of all, is 28th in schedule just fantasy points to kickers, to defenses. So it's a really good matchup for them, regardless of the weather. But on top of it, the weather is going to be absolutely horrible. And this is the lowest over-under in the NFL since November 22nd of 2006.
Jesus. Not only is that amazing, you just pissed off a bunch of Cajuns.
I'm just saying, the over-under is 32.5, and I think that's actually gone up since we started, or at least since I took these notes, because I had it at 31.5. So this game is going to be ridiculously low scoring. I think both defenses are viable here, but I think Cleveland's going to come out with the win, which is why I'm saying that, that defense is the better one to play. And on top of that, Cleveland, the Browns defense has been a top 3 defense 3 times this season, including that crazy game to where they had like 3 touchdowns. I remember that because I was playing against the Browns defense when that happened. But yeah, I think the Browns defense is going to be a very solid start. Could even be the number 1 defense on the week.
Wow. All right. I love it. Shout out Nick Chubb, hometown boy, Cedartown. Love you, buddy. Mine is actually going to be Detroit. Now, they're headed to Carolina, but they have been incredible the last 2 weeks. I do think the Detroit Lions are moving up as a team overall. I actually have them around 12 to 13 in my ranking of NFL teams. So Detroit, again, is one of those that you don't have one of these massive superstars, but they've played fantastic team defense and complementary football. And I think they're able to do that with Swift. I think they're able to do that just with the defense, limiting the big plays, limiting yardage. And it's hard to score on them. And Carolina, they make it hard to score. So I think it's a very positive matchup. And even though they're going down to play in Carolina, defense travels. I like it. And I'm on with the Lions this week.
Yeah, I like it. Like you said, defense travels. The Lions are at Carolina, but they're still 3-point favorites. I love the Lions, man. I hope they make the playoffs, and they've been killing it lately. And I think you're right. I think they keep it going this week against the Panthers. So
let's go. All right, so sits. We're going to start with QB. Who sucks this week?
Before we get started with our sits, I just want to kind of do a little brag on myself. My sits last week, now granted, my starts were horrendous, except for Michael Pittman. Shout out. But my sits were on point. 3 out of my 4 sits were spot on. Jared Goff was the QB 17, Kenneth Walker III was the RB 31, and DJ Chark was the wide receiver 80. So hit the nail on the head with all those.
And I would like to apologize to anybody that listened to me because my picks across the board were garbage last week.
Yeah. So anyway,
Thanks.
Moving on.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Sorry, man. Anyway, moving on. We'll run through these real quick. My QB of the week is Baker Mayfield. We just talked about the Rams game. I think that, it's a little over under 36.5. I don't think you said Baker maybe makes it in the end zone once or twice. I think maybe once, if that. I think, the Broncos defense is the worst matchup possible for quarterbacks if you look at schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. I think that game's going to be super defensive with those two really star defenses there, even though the Rams have been struggling a little bit. And Baker's going to Baker. I think he's going to have a couple of turnovers. I think I think the game script is going to have him. Is going to put him in a position where he's going to have to make plays happen, and he's just not good at making plays happen. I think that comeback game he had was just kind of a crazy situation where he had a little bit of luck thrown in. I don't think he gets it done this week.
All right. I'm not big on Baker Mayfield ever, so I like it. QB Kirk Cousins versus the Giants. I don't like it this week. I know they're at home, but I think the reason that the Vikings win this game is going to be Dalvin Cook, not Kirk Cousins. So he'll probably be sub 15 this week.
Yeah. We know my feelings on the Vikings. I think they've gotten exposed, and I think Kirk just crumbles under pressure, man. I mean, I know he had that comeback last week, but I just don't, I don't ever want to trust Kirk Cousins. Let me put it that way. So
I'm not knocking the team. I still think the Vikings win because we keep saying they're not good, and then they just keep winning. So at a point, you have to be like, well, they won the game, until they lose it, which will probably be in the playoffs. But until that happens, but I don't like Cousins as a upstart this week.
Okay. All right.
Running backs.
My running back sit of the week. I hinted at it earlier, but it's Joe Mixon. Now, it may be surprising. That's a bold move, Cotton. It's a bold move. Let's see if it works out.
Who had the strongest single fantasy performance of the season.
Yeah. And,
against me.
Yeah, well, and, since then, since that week where he had, 5 touchdowns, and he was the RB1, best performance all season. And now, granted, he has dealt with an injury, but since that week, he's been the RB31, and I think that was the game he got injured. Then he missed 2 games. Then he was the RB18 and the RB44. So since this injury that he's been dealing with, since that week, he has not gotten the job done. Whether he's been injured or whether he just hasn't performed, I don't know if that injury's still lingering. New England is also the second worst matchup for running backs. And this is actually kind of a crazy stat. New England has only allowed one running back with a game of 100 or more rushing yards, and that was Aaron Jones. Even more surprising, all season, they've only allowed 1 touchdown to running backs, whether it was rushing or receiving. Only 1 touchdown to running backs. All season.
Hot take. So, Joe Mixon will double that in passing this week.
Yeah, I don't.
2 passing touchdowns.
I don't think that happens at all. I don't think he gets a touchdown. I think Joe Mixon is not even in the top 24 running backs this week.
Oh, 24 people better than you. So mine is going to be Ramondre Stevenson versus Cincy. And why that is he's going to pull a Jonathan Taylor, and he's going to re-injure that injury on the first drive, and he will sit down the rest of the game.
Yep, could see a world where it happens. Wide receiver sit of the week. And I'm actually going to take a page out of your playbook. And I'm just going with a feeling on this one. I don't have a lot of stats to back this one up, although they are there. But Zay Jones with the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's just the matchup. He lines up outside where he does a lot of his damage. Sauce Gardner is just shutting everybody down. And he's shut wide receivers down that are a lot better than Zay Jones. And so I think he does not have a good week at all. On top of it being a really bad matchup for him as well as that team. We already talked about the rain and the weather that's going to be there, and Jacksonville is the worst matchup for wide receivers because of Sauce and that defense. So I don't think Zay Jones even sniffs being a viable start this week.
Damn. He don't even get to sniff it, JRitt. He can't even smell it. Mine, the biggest take of the entire week for me is I'm sitting Jamar Chase at New England. Bill Belichick knows how to take him down. He knows how to take away your best receiver, and that is Jamar Chase. Burrow will be looking for his second and third read, will be dumping it out of the backfield, which is why I think Mixon has 2 touchdowns out of this. Jamar Chase will have less than 5 points.
Less than 5 points. Wow.
In half PPR, he'll have less than 5.
Wow.
He will be targeted 8. He'll catch 2.
That is bold. That is bold.
Bold
Damn.
strategy, Cotton.
See if it works out for him. I don't think it will. All right. My tight end sit of the week. We already talked about it. George Kittle. I don't want to reiterate everything, but yeah, we already discussed my tight end sit of the week. So how about your tight end sit of the week there, Georgia?
My tight end sit of the week is going to be Dallas Goedert against Dallas. Again, it's because of the Hurts injury. We don't know what's going on. I don't like chancing it with the tight ends who do have other options available. When he's good, he's really, really good. When he's bad and they don't have him in the offensive, plan, it's like nothing. You just might as well not start anybody. So the coach has already come out and said they have to get Sanders more involved against Dallas. They have to do these things, and I think they're going to use Gardner Minshew more as a trick play or a quick screen or these kind of things and get them out to quick playmakers, which is going to be A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith on the outside. They're not going to utilize Goddard in the pass catching game. They're going to use him to block to try to protect Minshew. Don't start him against Dallas. Dallas is going to be all over. And I think what is that kid in Dallas? He's not kid, the guy that he's been living in backfields all season.
Micah Parsons.
Yeah, him. They're going to have to use Goddard to slide block him or double team him to keep him off of the QB.
Yeah, and Goddard's coming back off injury too, which I always worry about. So yeah, no, I agree with you there. I think you stay clear of Goddard if you can find a different option. So, all right, I'm going to pull the surprise one on you this week. If you got to pick one person up to stash for this week and next week to win you a championship, who's it going to be? Who's your waiver wire stash this week?
Oh, no. Honestly, I think it is going to be Minshew. I think if Hurts sits, you pick up Minshew, and the way the offense is designed, he gets enough points with yardage, and because these forward jet sweeps still count as passes into the end zone, I think it works for you. I think he's able to probably only drop off about 20% of what Hurts would get you, and Hurts is an MVP candidate. So 20% of an MVP, 80% of an MVP, you're looking pretty good.
All right, and mine's actually going to be Marquise Goodwin, wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. I think defenses are going to key in on DK. Lockett is going to be out in the next week or two, which gets you through the end of the fantasy season. I think Goodwin, we've seen flashes this season of him being able to get the job done. I think with the increased opportunity, I think he can be a sneaky start for you the next couple weeks.
All right, and JRitt, one last jump in here. If you were to pick one guy off the waiver wire, who is it going to be? Why? We have 80 seconds to close out this pod. Let's go!
I'm picking Jahan Dotson. I think he might be available in some leagues. He's available in our league right now. I think that his chemistry that he's developing with Taylor Heineke and the fact that teams tend to key on McLaurin fairly decent amount, I think Jahan Dotson could actually be a pretty promising show up in the next couple of weeks anyway for those that need a wide receiver coming off the waiver wire.
All right, there are the 3 hot takes, guys. Thanks to JRitt for coming in.
Pleasure. Glad to be here.
Thanks to John the Stone for, again, setting all this up, and having an incredible podcast experience for our people. Thank you, John the Stone.
Always happy to do it. Good luck, everybody, this week.
All right, everybody, it's the quarterfinals. We're coming out, and hopefully you make it into that championship. You do what you need to do. Fam Jam, we are out. Enjoy the Christmas season, the Christmas holidays of NFL. Sunday, Saturday, and Monday Night Football. Fam Jam, we're out.